Author, Neil Chinnock, Chief Business Administrator, iTech Rethinking Regulation in the UK. Introduction. Over the past decade, digital marketing has become a fundamental part of the UK's business landscape. From punchy Instagram stories to finely targeted email campaigns, brands of all sizes are now using online platforms to reach customers, build loyalty, and boost sales. Chaffee and Amp, Ellis Chadwick, 2019. Charlesworth, 2021. Canon and Amp, Lee, 2017. This digital surge has brought huge benefits for companies and consumers alike, but it's also unleashed a Pandora's box of problems. Think misleading ads, misuse of personal data, and regulators struggling to keep pace. Zuboff, 2019. Tadajewski and Amp, Brownlee, 2020. The UK's advertising regulations are well established and enforced through a mix of statutory laws and industry codes. Yet, digital marketers themselves aren't required to hold any formal, government-backed license. Such a proposal is hotly debated. Proponents argue it would boost accountability and protect vulnerable groups, while critics fear it would bog down the industry in red tape, stifling the creativity that fuels its dynamism. Rowles, 2022. ASA, 2023. Dobson and Amp, Starkey, 2021. This essay explores the current UK regulatory landscape, examines arguments for and against licensing, highlights academic and policy perspectives, and points out where more research is urgently needed. The current regulatory landscape. Digital marketing regulation in the UK is a patchwork of laws, industry codes, and voluntary standards. The Advertising Standards Authority, ASA, oversees non-broadcast marketing, including online ads. Its CAP code outlines rules on honesty, decency, and truthfulness for digital advertising. ASA 2023, Advertising Standards Authority 2020. Anyone can lodge complaints, and the ASA's rulings act as both warnings and public shaming to keep brands in line. Evans 2021. Beyond this, marketers must comply with the UK General Data Protection Regulation, UK GDPR, and the Privacy and Electronic Communications Regulations, PECR, which govern the collection and use of personal data in marketing. Information Commissioner's Office, 2023, ICO, 2021. Baines et al., 2022. Failure to obtain explicit consent can lead to hefty fines. Kavukian, 2019. Certain high-risk sectors, gambling, pharmaceuticals, and financial services, face stricter controls. The Gambling Commission, for example, requires licenses for operators and regulates marketing content and targeting. Gambling Commission, 2023. Wardle et al., 2019. The Human Medicines Regulations 2012 tightly restrict misleading health product claims. UK Government, 2012. Lekshin, 2019. Yet, outside these specific industries, there's no overarching licensing for digital marketers. Anyone with a laptop can set up shop, as long as they follow existing codes and laws. Voluntary qualifications, such as those from the Chartered Institute of Marketing, exist but are optional. Smith and Amp, Zook, 2016. Chartered Institute of Marketing, 2022. While this flexibility allows the industry to move at breakneck speed, enforcement depends on a mix of complaints, investigations, and goodwill. Rowles, 2022. Picton and Amp, Broderick, 2021. Arguments for government licensing. Stronger consumer protections advocates argue licensing would provide consistent consumer safeguards. Digital marketing's reach is enormous. One viral post can place an advert in front of millions within hours. Kumar et al., 2020. The rise of influencers, native ads, and micro-targeted content blurs lines between genuine content and paid promotions. Picton and Amp, Broderick, 2021. McStay, 2016. Marwick and Amp, Boyd, 2018. Vulnerable groups, especially children, those with low digital literacy, or people under financial stress, are particularly exposed. Ofcom, 2022, found children frequently encounter marketing for junk food and unsuitable products online. Livingston and Amp, Stoylova, 2021. Montgomery, Chester and Amp, Dorfman, 2020. a licensing system could set minimum standards for competence and ethics, requiring marketers to demonstrate legal knowledge, pass background checks, or complete ethics training. Hughes and Amp, Phil, 2020, Tadayevsky and Amp, Brownlee, 2020, Watson and Amp, Noble, 2022. This would help weed out bad actors and ensure all marketers understand their responsibilities around targeting and data use. Noble, 2018. Raising the bar for accountability and professionalism, licensing would also make it easier to hold marketers accountable. While the ASA can demand that misleading ads be withdrawn, it cannot prevent repeat offenders from launching new campaigns. ASA, 2023, Dobson and Amp, Starkey, 2021. A licensing authority could revoke or suspend licenses for serious breaches, akin to professions like law or medicine. Smith and Amp, Zook, 2016. Baines et al., 2022. This would raise industry standards and encourage ongoing professional development to keep pace with evolving technology and ethics. Hughes and Amp, Phil, 2020. Picton and Amp, Broderick, 2021. Fairer competition proponents highlight that licensing would level the playing field, requiring all marketers, large or small, to meet the same standards. Picton and Amp, Broderick, 2021. Charlesworth, 2021. Currently, firms that voluntarily uphold high ethical standards often lose out to competitors who cut corners. Picton and Amp, Broderick, 2021. Licensing could curb this race to the bottom by making ethical conduct mandatory. In sectors like gambling, licensing has already helped remove rogue operators and protect consumers. Gambling Commission, 2023. Wardle et al., 2019. Arguments against government licensing, chilling effect on innovation. Critics warn that licensing could stifle the innovation that drives digital marketing. The field evolves rapidly, with new platforms, tools, and techniques emerging constantly. Chaffee and Amp, Ellis Chadwick, 2019, Cannon and Amp, Lee, 2017. Creating licensing hurdles might slow down startups and freelancers, who could be deterred by lengthy training or complex paperwork. Rowles, 2022, Dobson and Amp, Starkey, 2021. Innovation often comes from risk-takers, and overly rigid rules might push marketers toward playing it safe, while regulations lag behind new developments. Smith and Amp, Zook, 2016, Charlesworth, 2021. Bureaucracy and extra costs. Establishing a licensing system would add bureaucracy and cost. The government would need to build new bodies to handle licensing, vet applicants, process renewals, and enforce rules. Picton and Amp, Broderick, 2021. Dobson and Amp, Starkey, 2021. These costs would likely fall on marketers, disproportionately affecting smaller agencies and freelancers. Baines et al., 2022. Charlesworth, 2021. Larger firms might absorb these costs more easily, potentially giving them an unfair advantage. Baines et al., 2022. Wardle et al., 2019. Given the global nature of digital marketing, UK-based marketers often serve overseas clients, and foreign firms can target UK consumers remotely. Licensing might create jurisdictional confusion, especially if other countries don't adopt similar regimes. McStay, 2016. European Commission, 2022. Effectiveness in question. Skeptics argue licensing isn't a silver bullet. The existing patchwork of self-regulation and sector-specific laws already offers reasonable consumer protection. ASA 2023, Rowles 2022. Licensing is already in place for high-risk sectors like gambling or health claims. For general digital marketing, a heavy-handed licensing regime might be overkill. Ofcom 2022, Watson and Amp, Noble 2022. More determined offenders might simply circumvent the system by operating overseas or faking credentials. There's scant evidence that widespread licensing would significantly reduce misleading ads or improve consumer outcomes, especially given stretched regulatory resources. Ofcom 2022, Watson and Amp, Noble 2022. Designing a future licensing body, structure, powers, and practicalities. If policymakers decide to implement licensing, the authority's design will be critical to its success and burden. Structure and governance. A credible licensing body would likely be an independent statutory authority working alongside but separate from the ASA and ICO. Its board should include industry leaders, small business owners, consumer advocates, legal and tech experts, and representatives of digitally excluded groups. Smith & Amp, Zook, 2016, Charlesworth, 2021, Braun & Amp, Clark, 2013. This diversity would help balance public interest with sector realities. Clear accountability is essential, including transparent reporting and public consultation. The model could draw on regulators in professions like law or accountancy, which maintain public registers, annual reports, and open hearings. Baines et al., 2022, Rolls, 2022. Scope and standards. The licensing regime would set minimum entry criteria and ongoing standards. Practitioners might need to demonstrate knowledge of marketing law, data protection, and ethics through exams or accredited courses. Hughes & Amp, Phil, 2020, Picton & Amp, Broderick, 2021. Show practical competence via portfolios or supervised practice. Pass criminal background checks if in responsible roles. Baines et al., 2022. Commit to ongoing professional development to keep up with tech and legal changes. Hughes & Amp, Phil, 2020. Picton & Amp, Broderick, 2021. A tiered system could apply, with stricter checks for marketers working in high-risk sectors like finance, health, or marketing to children. Gambling Commission, 2023, Lection, 2019. Powers and enforcement. Unlike the ASA's largely self-regulatory role, a statutory licensing body could issue, suspend, or revoke licenses for practitioners and agencies, impose fines for breaches of conduct or law, and require corrective actions, retraining, or public disclosures. Maintain a public register of licensed marketers. Baines et al., 2022. Information Commissioner's Office, 2023. A transparent appeals process would allow marketers to challenge sanctions before independent tribunals. Coordination with other regulators would be key for sharing information and conducting joint investigations. Information Commissioner's Office, 2023. Practical implementation. Launching the licensing body would require a robust online infrastructure for applications, monitoring, and complaints. To avoid excluding smaller firms, sliding scale fees and subsidized training should be offered. Charlesworth, 2021. Rolls, 2022. Efforts should be made to prevent the dominance of large agencies and to keep rules fit for purpose through regular reviews and sunset clauses. Charlesworth, 2021. Rolls, 2022. International alignment and digital realities. Given digital marketing's cross-border nature, the UK would need mutual recognition agreements with trusted overseas regulators, e.g., EU, Australia, Canada, joint enforcement protocols, and mechanisms to sanction offshore rule breakers targeting UK consumers. Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, 2020. Office of the Privacy Commissioner of Canada, 2023. European Commission, 2022. The authority must also be agile, updating guidance regularly, consulting tech firms, and possibly piloting regulatory sandboxes for new advertising formats. Mittelstadt, 2021. Noble, 2018. Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, 2020. Challenges and potential pitfalls. The administrative load could be heavy, and overly rigid processes risk stifling innovation or pushing activity underground. The body must strike a balance between firm enforcement and flexibility, engaging fully with stakeholders to succeed. Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, 2020. Qualifications for digital marketers in a licensed future licensing would usher in more formal qualifications and clearer career pathways. Foundational certifications. Entry-level marketers might need to complete nationally recognized certificates covering UK advertising law, GDPR, consumer rights, and sector-specific regulations. Hughes & Amp, Phil, 2020. Ethical standards and best practices. Tadajewski & Amp, Brownlee, 2020. Digital advertising fundamentals, content creation, and analytics. Chaffee & Amp, Ellis Chadwick, 2019. Responsible platform use and algorithmic bias basics. Noble, 2018. These could be delivered by accredited providers and involve coursework and exams, building on existing Chartered Institute of Marketing certificates, but with mandatory status and regulatory oversight. Smith & Amp, Zook, 2016. Advanced and sector-specific qualifications. For specializations or leadership roles, advanced diplomas or postgraduate qualifications might include programmatic advertising, influencer marketing, or social media strategy. Picton & Amp, Broderick, 2021. Sector-specific modules for healthcare, finance, gambling, or children's marketing. Gambling Commission, 2023. Lection, 2019. Advanced Data Ethics and Privacy Management, reflecting AI-driven targeting complexities. Mittelstadt, 2021. Universities and professional bodies could co-develop these to ensure relevance and rigor. Continuing Professional Development, CPD. Ongoing learning would be mandatory, with regular updates on legal changes, emerging technologies, e.g., generative AI, AR marketing, blockchain, and peer reviews, especially for mentors and campaign leaders. Hughes and Amp, Phil, 2020, Rawls, 2022. CPD would be audited periodically. Accreditation and titles. Licensed practitioners could adopt protected titles such as Licensed Digital Marketing Practitioner or Chartered Digital Marketing Specialist, signaling credibility to clients and employers. Picton & Amp, Broderick, 2021. Higher accreditation tiers could reward experience and leadership. Inclusive pathways. To keep the profession open, alternative routes must exist. Recognition of prior learning and experience for those without formal qualifications. Charlesworth, 2021. Apprenticeships and work-based learning for newcomers or career changers. Charlesworth, 2021. Rawls, 2022. Flexible online courses for regional workers or those with caring duties. Charlesworth, 2021. International equivalency paths to recognise overseas qualifications would support labour mobility while ensuring UK standards. Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, 2020. European Commission, 2022. How qualitative research can illuminate the licensing debate. Qualitative methods like interviews, focus groups, and case studies reveal the lived realities behind licensing debates. Braun & Amp, Clark, 2013. Watson & Amp, Noble, 2022. Discussions with marketers, agency heads, and regulators expose real concerns about compliance and standards. Consumer focus groups, especially among vulnerable groups, can show how licensing affects trust and ad impact. Ofcom, 2022, Livingston & Amp, Stoilova, 2021. Case studies from sectors with existing licensing, like gambling or pharma, offer practical lessons. Park et al., 2022. Lekshin, 2019. Thematic analysis uncovers common worries, bureaucracy, creativity constraints, calls for tougher accountability, and helps design smarter policies grounded in real-world views. Braun & Amp, Clark, 2013. Watson & Amp, Noble, 2022. Academic and policy perspectives. Academic opinions vary. Smith & Amp, Zook, 2016. Favor flexible, principle-based regulation over rigid licensing, trusting self-regulation backed by enforcement to balance innovation and protection. Picton & Amp, Broderick, 2021. Caution that growth in digital and influencer marketing strains existing models, suggesting targeted licensing in high-risk areas, even if universal licensing is excessive. UK policy tends toward targeted measures. Ofcom, 2022, calls for stricter rules on marketing to children and clearer paid content disclosures, rather than wholesale licensing. The government has empowered bodies like the ASA to focus enforcement where harm is greatest. ASA, 2023. Gaps in research and future directions. Despite lively debate, research on licensing's real-world impact remains patchy. There's little empirical data on how licensing might affect SMEs and freelancers, or on the costs and administrative burdens involved. Charlesworth, 2021, Watson & Amp, Noble, 2022, Baines et al., 2022. The voices of micro-agencies and sole traders are underrepresented. questions remain about licensing's impact on innovation and creativity. Anecdotes warn of risk-averse cultures and slowed adoption of new tactics, but solid evidence is scarce. Rawls, 2022, McStay, 2016. Comparative international studies, for instance, between the UK and Australia or Canada, could clarify licensing's effects on sector dynamism. Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, 2020. Office of the Privacy Commissioner of Canada, 2023. Research also lacks on vulnerable populations. While some studies cover children's exposure and digital literacy issues, Ofcom, 2022, Livingston Anamp, Stoilova, 2021, Lupton, 2022. It's unclear if licensing would meaningfully improve their outcomes or merely shift problems elsewhere. The role of licensing in tackling algorithmic bias affecting marginalized groups is also underexplored. Noble, 2018, Mittelstadt, 2021. The international patchwork complicates enforcement. Few studies compare different national approaches or explore unintended consequences of unilateral UK reforms, such as offshore marketing or unlicensed foreign agencies. Dobson and Amp, Starkey, 2021, European Commission, 2022. Current research focuses largely on policymakers and big industry voices. More qualitative work capturing small business owners, freelancers, and consumers is needed, using mixed methods to ground policy in lived experience. Braun Namp, Clark, 2013. Watson and Amp, Noble, 2022. Conclusion. Licensing digital marketers in the UK presents a classic dilemma: how to safeguard consumers without strangling a vibrant, rapidly evolving sector. It could raise standards and accountability, but might also introduce costs, bureaucracy, and dampen innovation. The UK's current blend of self-regulation, sector-specific rules, and targeted enforcement reflects the sector's diversity and speed. For now, measured reform and further research appear wiser than imposing sweeping new licensing. Policymakers will need to stay agile, balancing consumer protection with the entrepreneurship that keeps digital marketing thriving. References: Advertising Standards Authority, 2020. The CAP Code, UK Code of Non-Broadcast Advertising and Direct and Promotional Marketing. London, ASA. Advertising Standards Authority, 2023. Rulings. Available at https://www.asa.org.uk. Rulings. HTML. Accessed 21 June 2025. Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, 2020. Digital Platforms Inquiry. Final Report. Canberra, ACCC. Baines, P. Phil, C. Rosengren, S. and Antonetti, P. 2022. Marketing. 7th EdNet and Oxford, Oxford University Press. Braun, V. and Clark, V. 2013. Successful Qualitative Research, a Practical Guide for Beginners. London, Sage Publications. Kavukian, A. 2019. GDPR and the New World of Data Protection. International Data Privacy Law, 91, pp. 1-3. Charlesworth, A. 2021. Digital Marketing, a Practical Approach. 4th EdNet Abingdon, Routledge. Chartered Institute of Marketing, 2022. Qualifications. Available at www.cim.co.uk/qualifications. Accessed 21 June 2025. Chaffee, D. and Ellis Chadwick, F. 2019. Digital Marketing. Strategy, Implementation and Practice. 7th Eden Harlow, Pearson. Dobson, P. and Starkey, K. 2021. Regulation, Self-Regulation, and the Digital Marketing Profession. Journal of Marketing Management, 3734. pp. 321-340. European Commission, 2022. Cross-Border Enforcement of Consumer Protection Law. Brussels, European Commission. Evans, M. 2021. Advertising Regulation in the Digital Age. Media Law Review, 15.2, pp. 84-99. Gambling Commission, 2023. Marketing and Advertising Standards. Available at http://www.gamblingcommission.gov.uk. Accessed 20 West June 2025. Hughes, G. and Phil, C. 2020. Managing and Measuring Marketing Performance. 3rd Edna, London, Kogan Page. ICO, 2021. Guide to the UK General Data Protection Regulation, UK GDPR. Wilmslow, Information Commissioner's Office. Information Commissioner's Office, 2023. Privacy and Electronic Communications Regulations. Available at https://ico.org.uk/for organisations /guide to PICAR. Accessed 20 June 2025. Cannon, P.K. and Lee, H. 2017. Digital Marketing, a Framework, Review and Research Agenda. International Journal of Research in Marketing, 34-1. pp. 22-45. Lection, J. 2019. Pharmaceutical Marketing and Regulation in the UK. Health Policy, 123-11. pp. 1105-111. Livingston, S. and Stoilova, M. 2021. Children's Exposure to Digital Marketing. British Journal of Sociology, 72-2. pp. 393-410. Lupton, D. 2022. The Digital Marketing of Health Products. Implications for Vulnerable Groups. Health Promotion International, 37 Charter 1. pp. 153-162. Marwick, A. E. and Boyd, D. 2018. It's Complicated. Social Media and Influencer Marketing. Media Studies Review, 10-1. pp. 45-61. McStay, A. 2016. Digital Advertising. 2nd Ednan. Basingstoke, Palgrave Macmillan. Mittelstadt, B.D. 2021. Principles alone cannot guarantee ethical AI. Nature Machine Intelligence, 3-7. pp. 566-572. Montgomery, K.C. Chester, J. and Dorfman, L. 2020. The New Landscape of Digital Marketing to Children. Pediatrics, 145, Supplement 2. pp. S135, S139. Noble, S.U. 2018. Algorithms of Oppression. How Search Engines Reinforce Racism. New York, NYU Press. Ofcom, 2022. Children and Parents, Media Use and Attitudes Report, 2022. London, Ofcom. Parquet, J., Harris, A., Parquet, A., and Rigby, J., 2022. The Regulatory Impact of Licensing in UK Gambling Marketing. International Gambling Studies, 22-1. pp. 15-36. Picton, D. and Broderick, A. 2021. Integrated Marketing Communications. 5th Eden. Harlow, Pearson. Rawls, D. 2022. Digital Branding. A complete step-by-step guide to strategy, tactics and measurement. 3rd Eden. London. Kogan Page. Smith, PR, and Zook, Z. 2016. Marketing Communications. Integrating offline and online with social media. 6th Eden. London. Kogan Page. Tadayevsky, M. and Brownlee, D. 2020. Regulating Digital Marketing. Challenges and Prospects. European Journal of Marketing, 54-7, pp. 1537-1559. UK Government, 2012. Human Medicines Regulations, 2012. London, HMSO. Wardle, H. Reith, G. Best, D. McDade, D. and Platt, S. 2019. Gambling and Public Health. The Role of Licensing. The Lancet Public Health. 47. pp. E341, E342. Watson, M. and Noble, G. 2022. Qualitative Approaches to Studying Digital Marketing Regulation. Qualitative Market Research. 25.1. pp. 112, 27. Zuboff, S. 2019. The Age of Surveillance Capitalism. London, Profile Books.